I never thought I'd find love again, especially not when I was wearing my deceased grandmother's floral muumuu and orthopedic shoes. Olivia's voice breaks as she looks at the camera, her now stylish appearance a stark contrast to the story she's about to tell. Beside her, Michael squeezes her hand, his eyes reflecting a love so genuine it makes your heart ache. But sometimes, she continues, the universe has other plans. If you're touched by this story of unexpected love, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more real-life romances that prove love finds us in the most surprising ways. Olivia Chen stared at her reflection in the full-length mirror, barely recognizing herself. The oversized floral muumuu hung like a tent over her petite frame. Her normally sleek black hair was teased into a frizzy mess, and the thick-framed glasses she hadn't worn since college perched awkwardly on her nose. "Perfect," she muttered, slipping her feet into her late grandmother's orthopedic shoes. "Absolutely hideous." At 34, Olivia was tired. Tired of putting her heart on the line. Tired of men who seemed perfect until they revealed their true colors. Tired of the endless cycle of hope and disappointment that dating had become. When her best friend Zoe had insisted on setting her up on yet another blind date, Olivia had finally snapped. "Fine," she had told Zoe over their weekly coffee. "I'll go. But this time, I'm going as my authentic self." What Olivia meant was that she was done pretending to be someone she wasn't just to impress a man. What she decided to do, however, was something far more dramatic. If this mystery man was going to reject her, and they always did, eventually, she'd make it happen immediately. No wasted time. No false hope. Just immediate, efficient rejection based on her deliberately awful appearance. She grabbed her purse, a hideous knitted thing her aunt had made for her birthday years ago, and headed out the door. The coffee shop was only a few blocks away, and Olivia found herself hoping she wouldn't run into anyone she knew. Michael Taylor arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early, a habit he developed during his military years that he couldn't seem to break. His 7-year-old daughter, Emma, had helped him pick out his outfit that morning, a blue button-down shirt that she insisted made his eyes pop, and his nicest pair of jeans. "Remember, Daddy," Emma had said seriously as she straightened his collar, "be yourself. But also, maybe don't talk about boring grown-up stuff right away." Michael smiled at the memory. After losing his wife to cancer 3 years ago, he'd been focused solely on raising Emma and building their new life together. Dating hadn't even been on his radar until recently, when Emma had started asking innocent questions about why he didn't have a special friend like her friend Lily's dad had found. His sister-in-law Zoe had been trying to set him up for months, and he'd finally relented. "She's perfect for you," Zoe had insisted. "Smart, kind, great with kids, and she has the same weird sense of humor you do." Michael checked his watch again and ordered a coffee. He was nervous but also strangely hopeful. Something about the way Zoe had described Olivia made him think this blind date might actually be different. Olivia paused outside the coffee shop, suddenly questioning her ridiculous plan. Was she really going to walk in there looking like this? Was she really so afraid of rejection that she'd rather sabotage a date before it began? Yes, she decided. Yes, she was. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the door. The little bell jingled, announcing her arrival. According to Zoe, her date would be wearing a blue shirt and sitting by the window. She spotted him immediately. Tall, with broad shoulders and dark hair peppered with just enough gray to look distinguished. He was handsome in a rugged, lived-in way that made her stomach flip unexpectedly. For a moment, she considered turning around and running home to change. But then he looked up, his eyes meeting hers, and it was too late. Michael saw her the moment she walked in. Despite her bizarre outfit, something about her caught his attention immediately. Perhaps it was the determined set of her shoulders or the flash of vulnerability in her eyes before she squared them with resolve. As she approached his table, he stood up, extending his hand. "You must be Olivia." "I'm Michael." "Yes," she said, her voice softer than he expected. That's me. Up close, he could see that beneath the ridiculous glasses and wild hair, she was actually quite beautiful. Her eyes were a warm brown, intelligent and wary. There was a story here, he thought. And despite her apparent attempt to look unappealing, he found himself intensely curious about her. I got you a coffee, he said, gesturing to the cup across from his. Zoe mentioned you like vanilla lattes. Surprise flickered across Olivia's face. She had clearly expected a different reaction to her appearance. Thank you, she said cautiously, sliding into the seat across from him. Olivia was confused. Michael wasn't reacting the way she'd expected. There was no poorly concealed shock or disappointment, no awkward excuse to cut the date short. Instead, he was looking at her with genuine interest, as if her appearance was completely normal. So, he said, Zoe tells me you're a children's book illustrator. That must be fascinating work. Olivia nodded, still waiting for the other shoe to drop. It is. I love it. What about you? I own a small construction company. We specialize in eco-friendly renovations. He smiled, and Olivia felt an unexpected warmth spread through her chest. But my most important job is being Emma's dad. Emma? My daughter. She's 7 and currently convinced she's going to be both an astronaut and a veterinarian when she grows up. Olivia couldn't help but smile. Ambitious. She gets that from her mother, Michael said, a flicker of sadness crossing his face before he smiled again. So, Olivia, I have to ask. Here it comes, she thought. Why are you dressed like that? The directness of the question caught her off guard. She had prepared for polite avoidance or thinly veiled disgust, not straightforward curiosity. She began, then stopped. How could she explain without sounding completely neurotic? Michael waited patiently, his blue eyes kind. I wanted to see if you'd be shallow enough to judge me based on my appearance, she finally said, deciding honesty was the only way forward. I've had too many relationships where men were initially attracted to how I looked, only to lose interest when they got to know the real me. So I thought I'd flip the script. To her surprise, Michael laughed. Not a mocking laugh, but a warm, genuine one that crinkled the corners of his eyes. That's actually kind of brilliant, he said. Misguided, maybe, but brilliant. Olivia felt her cheeks flush. You think I'm crazy? No, he said, leaning forward. I think you're someone who's been hurt and is trying to protect herself. I get that. After my wife died, I built walls so high I couldn't see over them myself. The simple honesty of his words struck Olivia deeply. She hadn't expected this level of understanding, especially not from a stranger. I'm sorry about your wife, she said softly. Thank you. He took a sip of his coffee. So, now that we've established you're not actually a time traveler from a 1970s retirement community, would you like to start over? Olivia laughed, feeling something tight in her chest begin to loosen. I'd like that. Their coffee date stretched into lunch, and then a walk through the nearby park. Olivia forgot about her ridiculous outfit as they talked about everything from their favorite books to their most embarrassing childhood memories. Michael was easy to talk to, thoughtful and funny in a quiet way that snuck up on her. Emma would love your books, he said as they sat on a park bench, watching ducks paddle across a small pond. She's going through a phase where she's obsessed with stories about brave girls having adventures. She sounds wonderful, Olivia said, meaning it. Usually, the mention of children on a first date made her nervous, not because she didn't like kids, but because it added a layer of complexity she wasn't sure she was ready for. But with Michael, it felt natural to hear about Emma. She is, he agreed, his face softening with pride. She's the reason I get up every morning. After Sarah died, Emma was the only thing that kept me going. How did you? Olivia began, then stopped herself. I'm sorry, that's too personal for a first date. No, it's okay, Michael said. Sarah had breast cancer. We thought she'd beaten it, but it came back aggressively when Emma was 4. He looked out at the pond, his profile strong against the afternoon light. The hardest part was explaining to Emma that Mommy wasn't coming home. Olivia felt tears prick at her eyes. Without thinking, she reached out and took his hand. I can't imagine how difficult that must have been. Michael squeezed her hand gently. It was the worst time of my life. But kids are resilient, you know? Emma still misses her mom, but she's also this incredibly joyful, present little person who reminds me every day that life goes on. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, still holding hands. I should probably tell you, Olivia finally said, that I don't normally dress like this. In fact, I'm a fairly normal person who usually wears jeans and sweaters and doesn't tease her hair into what looks like a small animal's nesting place. Michael laughed. I figured as much. Though I have to say, you pull off the eccentric grandma look better than anyone I've ever met. Olivia groaned, suddenly remembering her appearance. God, I must look ridiculous walking around like this. You look memorable, Michael corrected. And brave. It takes guts to put yourself out there like this, even if it was meant as a defense mechanism. His understanding touched her deeply. For the first time in years, Olivia felt seen, really seen, by someone. As the afternoon waned, Michael walked Olivia back to her apartment building. At her door, they both hesitated, the moment heavy with possibility. I had a really nice time today, Michael said. Much better than I expected. Even with. Olivia gestured to her outlandish outfit. Especially with that, he said, his eyes warm. It's not every day you get to see someone's defense mechanism so literally on display. It's refreshing. Olivia laughed. Well, when you put it that way. I'd like to see you again, Michael said, suddenly serious. The real you, in whatever clothes make you comfortable. Though I have to warn you, if you meet Emma, she'll probably ask about this outfit. She has a vivid imagination and will likely think you're some kind of undercover superhero. The mention of meeting his daughter sent a flutter of both excitement and anxiety through Olivia. I'd like that, she said softly. Both seeing you again and meeting Emma. Eventually. Michael smiled, and before she could overthink it, Olivia rose on her tiptoes, despite the orthopedic shoes adding an inch to her height, and kissed him lightly on the cheek. Thank you for seeing past all this, she said. Thank you for giving me a chance, even if you were trying not to, he replied. As she watched him walk away, Olivia felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time, hope. Their second date was at a casual restaurant, with Olivia dressed in her normal clothes, dark jeans, a soft green sweater, and boots. Her hair fell in natural waves around her shoulders, and she'd left the thick glasses at home. When Michael saw her, his eyes widened appreciatively. Wow, he said. You clean up nice. Olivia laughed. Is that disappointment I hear? Were you hoping for the muumuu again? Never, he said, taking her hand as they walked into the restaurant. Though I have to admit, I was a little worried I wouldn't recognize you without it. Their relationship progressed naturally from there. Michael was patient and steady, never pushing too hard but always making it clear how much he enjoyed being with her. Olivia found herself opening up in ways she hadn't with anyone before, sharing her fears and dreams without the usual filter she applied to new relationships. A month after their first date, Olivia finally met Emma. They went to the zoo together, and Olivia was immediately charmed by the precocious 7-year-old with her father's blue eyes and a personality that was entirely her own. Daddy says you wore a really funny outfit when you first met, Emma said as they watched the penguins swim. Why? Olivia glanced at Michael, who shrugged apologetically. I was trying to scare your dad away, she admitted to Emma. Emma considered this seriously. Did it work? Not even a little bit, Michael answered, wrapping an arm around Olivia's shoulders. Good, Emma declared. Because I like you, and Daddy smiles more now. The simple observation brought tears to Olivia's eyes. She'd been so focused on protecting herself from getting hurt that she hadn't considered the possibility that she might actually make someone else's life better just by being in it. Their relationship wasn't without challenges. Michael sometimes struggled with guilt, feeling as if he was betraying Sarah's memory by falling in love again. Olivia had moments of insecurity, wondering if she could ever measure up to the woman Emma still called my real mom, in moments of anger or confusion. 6 months into their relationship, they had their first serious fight. Emma had been acting out, refusing to let Olivia help with her homework and making pointed comments about how her mother used to do things differently. "Maybe we're moving too fast," Olivia said after Emma had gone to bed, tears streaming down her face. "She's not ready for this. Maybe I'm not either." "Don't do that," Michael said, his voice tight with frustration. "Don't use Emma as an excuse to run away because you're scared." "I'm not running away," Olivia protested. "I'm being realistic. This is complicated, Michael. You come with a history, with responsibilities I'm not sure I know how to handle." "Everyone has a history," he countered. "Including you. Your history has you so terrified of rejection that you showed up to our first date looking like you'd raided a thrift store during an earthquake." The reminder of her ridiculous scheme made Olivia laugh despite herself, breaking the tension. "I'm sorry," Michael said, taking her hands. "I know this isn't easy. But Liv, nothing worth having ever is. Emma is struggling because she cares about you, because she's afraid of losing you like she lost her mom. And yes, that's a lot of pressure. But it's also a testament to how important you've become to both of us." Olivia leaned her forehead against his. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not of Emma, or of you. I'm scared of how much I love you both already. What if I mess this up? What if you don't?" Michael countered. "What if this is exactly where you're supposed to be?" A year after their first date, Michael proposed. Not with a grand gesture, but on a quiet evening at home after Emma had gone to bed. They were sitting on his couch, Olivia sketching ideas for her next book while Michael read beside her. "Marry me," he said suddenly, setting down his book. Olivia looked up, her pencil freezing mid-stroke. "What?" "Marry me," he repeated, taking the sketchbook from her hands and setting it aside. "Be my wife. Be Emma's stepmom. Be the person I wake up next to every morning and go to sleep beside every night." Tears filled Olivia's eyes. "Are you sure? Really sure?" Michael smiled, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small velvet box. "I've been carrying this around for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. But then I realized, this is the perfect moment. Just us, being us." He opened the box to reveal a vintage ring with a modest diamond surrounded by sapphires. "It was my grandmother's," he explained. "Sarah had her own ring, and I wanted you to have something that was just for you." The thoughtfulness of the gesture overwhelmed Olivia. This man, who had seen through her ridiculous disguise to the scared, hopeful woman beneath, who had patiently helped her lower her defenses and build something real, he was offering her everything she'd ever wanted but had been too afraid to hope for. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, I'll marry you." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Olivia couldn't help but laugh. "You know, most love stories don't begin with one person deliberately trying to sabotage the relationship before it even starts.